This is turn 7 of Sunday Blitz, and I successfully predicted TNG being super aggressive here. So he attacked into me with these archers and this one noble. Given that this guy has an experience star, he's definitely been responsible for doing some killing in the last thing. And this guy is their prophet, so he is a level 3 priest, and he is casting Sermon of Courage on these guys and then probably doing some smiting. This also gives us a chance to see TNG's Bless. So he's got defense, reinvigoration, strength, charged bodies. That's an interesting Bless. It looks like it's sort of a mix between a spirit and a wushu Bless. So usually if you take charged bodies, you also want to take shock resistance in order to prevent your guys from dying to that, unless your sacreds have native shock resist. So the Warriors of Spring, TNG Sacreds, actually do have shock resist 5, but that's still not enough to actually avoid all of the damage from charged bodies. So I would definitely think that you would want to take some shock resistance just in order to protect those guys a little bit better, as well as to basically help improve the resistances for all of your other units. Otherwise, anytime your guys take hits, then they're just going to die. Admittedly, the dispossessed spirits themselves, because they have only 1 hit point, don't really get much of a benefit from that, because if they get hit, they die anyways, and this is, admittedly, an Ancestor Spirit-oriented Bless. But the reinvigoration thing only makes sense if they're using like mages and non-ghost sacreds. Because all of TNG's mages are sacreds, having reinvigoration is nice. Defense skill +2 is also kind of weird for this. Like I mentioned, that's something that helps their warriors out quite a bit, but it doesn't do much at all for your spirits, who, with charged bodies, you're expecting to get hit. Although I guess it makes them tar pit a little bit better. Strength actually does help the dispossessed spirits because paralyzed damage does actually increase with strength. So it basically makes them slightly better at paralyzing. But again, it seems like it's something which is more oriented towards increasing the combat power of their capital sacreds, which definitely need shock resistance if you're running charged bodies. So it's a bit of a mishmash Bless, which, like I mentioned, has one obvious missing thing, as far as I can tell. But it is kind of interesting and new, and whenever we do come across those dispossessed spirits, we're going to need like banishment or ranged weapons to take them down, since otherwise the charged body return damage is going to be very threatening to our sacreds and stuff. So these guys start shooting at our province defense, since they're set way ahead of the rest of our army. And then the noble charioteer here is charging forward to try to do some trampling. It looks like he was using probably just these guys as his primary expanders, and they're actually quite good at it, since while they're only size 4, so their trampling damage isn't quite as bad as Hinnom's chariots or elephants, they do have 18 protection, which is huge, as well as 16 defense, which is also pretty solid. So a couple of these guys can definitely take on most Indies, or in this case, province defense. Because this guy was set here and apparently like as far back as the commander, he actually got tagged with the attack rear from these guys, so this Eagle Warrior killed him. And that's pretty good for us, it gets rid of him. This Eagle Warrior got hit by the smite, but still managed to survive. And then the rest of the Eagle Warriors dropped down onto these guys. So this guy ran over one of the Eagle Warriors and killed him, and then another Eagle Warrior got killed by the archers in melee range, because when you're up against a sufficient number of enemies, then they are eventually going to cut through the luck. But they managed to catch this guy. He's only at 2 hit points now, and with their quickness they managed to grab him before he can retreat. And it looks like he dies to the Holy Avenger that the Prophet had cast on himself. So we managed to destroy TNG's army, or expansion force here, including their Prophet, so that's actually really good for us. We do lose 3 of the Eagle Warriors in the process, but that's definitely worth it, and hopefully this is enough to dissuade TNG from attacking us further. Here in the Troll Canyons, we are fighting the woodsman guys, and yeah, it looks like these are the... Okay, so these are the Woodhenge Druids, and they actually have some nature gems. So no bodyguards here, but because these guys are here in the back, I expect the Eagle Warriors to drop on them. And they drop on this guy, but it looks like this guy went in and amongst the troops. So they're not actually focusing down the commanders and are instead just fighting the body of the enemies. However, they are just super awesome murder machines with a huge attack and luck in order to prevent them from dying when they get hit back. So they're able to actually just simply do enough damage to rout the enemy army. And with that, the independents are destroyed. We lose one of the Eagle Warriors, which we had with this group, but they simply kill quickly enough to just wipe out this entire group of Indies. So that's awesome. Here in the Salt Plains, we have a bad harvest, so we lose 100% of the 19 income that we would have gotten. So that's not a huge deal. So, with TNG pacified, we're going to continue expansion. If we were to attack into him, we could potentially, like, maybe try to rush him down, but that's much more dangerous, and with only 3 Eagle Warriors here, it's definitely not likely to succeed. So, we'll instead just assume that we are going to have a peaceful board over here for a little bit, given how threatening we now seem to him. And we're just going to try to do regular expansion. So these guys are going over here. These guys are going to take on the monkeys. These guys are going to attack into the militia light infantry, heavy infantry province. Over here, we're going to be bringing 6 sacreds and just 1 warrior. The reason for that is that because we killed a bunch of these Pegasus riders, I think we have a decent chance of capturing this province next turn. Or we might want to combine both of these 2 armies in order to take on the relatively difficult heavy cavalry province. These guys are going to have to wait until we can send another guy up there. So having built the laboratory, this guy's going to be building a temple next so that we can start recruiting some Jaguar Warriors, and while we won't be able to get full Jaguar Warrior production, this is still a fairly populous province, so we can get a reasonable number of them, and we can start recruiting the Mictlan Priests, which we are going to be definitely needing. One of the advantages of taking a huge bless is that even a couple Jaguar Warriors can be useful as either raiding parties or counter-raiding parties if we're the ones being raided, to quickly retake provinces with small amounts of PD. So even if you have only a couple, it's still enough to perform that role. And that's the turn. This is turn 8 of Sunday Blitz, and we've got 3 more expansion parties, all of which are the very familiar Eagle Warriors just murdering everything. Since we've seen that a couple times already, I won't go ahead and look at each one. The only thing that's unusual about this one is that the Moon Warriors managed to close in before the enemy was completely destroyed, and one of them even got a kill. Here in the swamps, we killed just a huge number of monkeys. These guys are pretty weak. Interestingly enough, it says that these guys actually got a kill, so let's check that out. Because I don't think there's anything for them to kill here. Oh, you know what that is? That's friendly fire. So that's kind of funny. So these guys actually managed to kill 2 of their allies with ranged attacks just by missing with their sticks and stones. And we got a Clam of Pearls, which is cool. That's some free pearls in battle magic. So the Noahawali who's carrying that, once we research some conjuration, can use that to cast Power of the Spheres or something. And then here in Stone Heavens, this is the group of only 3 Eagle Warriors, but they're just straight up murderous enough to destroy the entire enemy army anyways. So this bless is definitely working out, at least for expansion, for making just a couple Eagle Warriors just absolute monstrosities. And our Oracle is... so Oracles actually have very high fortune telling, which is this right here, so they have a 33% chance of preventing any bad event from occurring. So we managed to stop whatever bad event was going to go on at our capital. So that's good. So I kind of have some regrets now for not having sent up a guy there to go grab these guys and then go expand, because it looks like we were beaten to it by Turnanog. So we have now encountered all of the other players, and apparently 2 things have happened. One, Helheim has actually attacked or bumped TNG and won. So TNG is probably going to be very far behind, given that, they've gotten hit by elves. Also, Helheim is apparently supermassive, and Turnanog has already encountered them as well. And I was correct that they are definitely running a dragon. We can see the water dragon right over here, so that's almost certainly water 10. And Turnanog asked in Discord for everyone else to help gang up on Helheim, given that Helheim is apparently just super super huge. And this is definitely something that I'm willing to do because it means that I'm not the one getting ganged up on by everyone, which is normally what happens in these blitzes. So I am definitely going to be taking advantage of this and attacking Helheim as much as I can. That's both going to be getting more provinces for myself, and it's going to be weakening the largest player. And of course, I have a huge number of sacreds to do that, and because my guys have such a huge attack bonus, the normally super threatening Water 10 Elf province defense shouldn't actually be that bad, because my Eagle Warriors are actually going to be able to hit it, and upon hitting it, kill it. I'm going to be putting up a fort here, and given that it's a throne, you always want to fort your thrones. This game is being played with only 4 thrones on the map, 3 of which are required to win, but they're reasonably spread out, so there's one here, one here, one here. Last one is over here. So that means that it's actually going to be relatively hard to throw much without having like a decisive advantage over everyone. Looking at where the thrones are placed, one of them is in my cap circle, so that's basically mine. The one over here looks to be in Helheim's territory, but it's kind of hard to tell what all Helheim controls. All we know is that they're, just based on what Turnanog has said from having apparently sent a scout into their heartland, they're just super huge. So we can assume that Helheim owns like the territory around these guys. Given that Turnanog expanded to here, and this is still Indy, Turnanog's probably in this area, so this is probably a Turnanog throne. So with 1 throne under our control, 2 thrones under Helheim's control, and 1 under Turnanog's control, we can probably win just by beating Helheim if we're able to beat everyone else to claiming this throne over here. If not, then, we'll have to fight other people as we normally do in a blitz. But that's just something to keep in mind because we have recruitable level 3 priests, and the thrones are only level 1, which means that they're relatively easy to capture early. So I could potentially try to look for an early win just by blitzing through Helheim and grabbing this. But given that that's literally on the opposite side of the map from us, and Turnanog is going to be relatively close, and TNG is also going to be relatively close, and we'll probably need to pass through the core of Helheim's lands, that's not super reliable of a way of winning. But it is something to keep in mind in terms of like picking what we're going to be going for. I'm attacking into here because this is a rich-looking farm province, and I could potentially even get access to a throne. So this province has Spine Devils, which is interesting. I'm not actually sure if that's from an event that made demons attack Helheim's province, or if this is just a weird population type. Just because I haven't seen all the pop types in Dom 5 so far. If it is an indie attack, then that's kind of good for us in that it means that Helheim, lost a province that they'd already captured. But it also does mean that Helheim managed to take this, which is like, wow, that's pretty huge, given that they already own all this. So I'm going to be attacking into here. Unless Helheim also owns this province, that can potentially also cut off the income that they could be getting from this one. So we're basically just continuing our expansion, but we're doing so by fighting the scary-looking elves. This guy's going to be going over here to grab the additional Eagle Warrior there, so he's actually only bringing 9 units rather than the full complement, and then we're recruiting 9 more, and yeah, so we're going to be, 9 more. And then we're going to be recruiting a High Priest of the Sun. He's going to be able to both claim this throne over here and eventually summon the Ocelottles once we hit Blood 4, which we did. We hit Blood 4. So we can start summoning up Ocelottles, which is great. They're going to be basically supplementing our Eagle Warriors in being flying murder sacreds, and they're even higher damage, and because they have higher base HP and stuff, they're more resilient as well. So they are super awesome, and just a couple of those complementing our Eagle Warriors are going to be basically making up our armies for the entire game. With our research focus, we're essentially going to be not scaling up to get new magic, but simply scaling up to get more and more Ocelottles until we have enough of those to basically just be able to wipe out enemy armies in one round. And then eventually we'll be able to get other magic as well, probably looking at getting buffs for them and stuff, but Bloodlusted, Super Blessed Ocelottles are already going to be enough to just kind of carry the game, given that it's a relatively small blitz. And that's the turn.